black girl cries out at the funeral, "My mom is alive." The moment the coffin is opened, everything changes. Subscribe to the channel not to miss new stories. Write in the comments where you watch this video from. The day started like any other. The autumn air carried the scent of fallen leaves, and the sky was a muted shade of gray, stretching endlessly over the quiet neighborhood where the Harris family had built their life. 7-year-old Zoe Harris sat by the window, her small hands pressed against the cold glass as she watched the street, waiting for her mother to return from her morning run. Her mother, Lily Harris, always returned by this time, but that day she didn't. Instead, the phone rang, sharp, urgent, cutting through the silence of the house. Michael Harris, Zoe's father, answered on the third ring. The voice on the other end was calm, professional, almost detached, delivering the words that shattered his world in an instant. "Mr. Harris, I'm calling from Mercy General Hospital. I'm very sorry to inform you that your wife, Lily Harris, has passed away this morning." The words didn't make sense. They couldn't. Lily had left the house only an hour ago, her sneakers tapping against the pavement as she jogged down the street, waving at a neighbor before disappearing around the corner. She was fine. She was alive. Michael barely remembered grabbing his keys and rushing to the hospital, his heart pounding against his ribs as he weaved through traffic, his knuckles white against the steering wheel. By the time he arrived, a nurse led him into a sterile white room where a doctor stood waiting. "We believe it was a sudden cardiac arrest," the doctor explained, his voice smooth, rehearsed. "She was found collapsed on the running trail in the park. A bystander called emergency services, but by the time they arrived, it was too late." Michael blinked, his mind struggling to process the words. Lily had never had heart problems. She was healthy, strong. He should be able to see her, to hold her, to understand that she was really gone. But when he asked to see her, the doctor hesitated. "There's a medical procedure that needs to be completed first," the doctor said carefully. "You'll have the opportunity later, of course. But for now, we need to ensure everything is handled properly." The words didn't sit right with him, but he was too numb, too lost in his grief to argue. They gave him a death certificate and a timeline for the funeral. And just like that, his wife was gone. 2 days later, the funeral was arranged. The service was held in a small, dimly lit chapel. Friends, family, and neighbors gathered, their faces clouded with sympathy and sorrow. A closed casket sat at the front of the room, surrounded by lilies and white roses. Michael stood at the front, staring at the polished wood of the casket, a growing unease settling in his chest. He hadn't seen his wife's body. No one had. The murmurs started even before the service began. "Why is the casket closed?" whispered an elderly woman from the back. "I heard the coroner refused to let anyone see the body," said another, voice hushed but not quiet enough. Michael clenched his jaw and turned away. But his best friend, Derek Miller, stepped closer, speaking just low enough for only him to hear. "Are you sure about this, man? Doesn't it bother you that they won't let you see her?" Michael exhaled sharply, rubbing a hand down his face. "Of course it bothers me. But what am I supposed to do? They said it was a heart attack. I don't know. Maybe they have some medical reason." "I've been a cop for 15 years, Derek interrupted, his voice firm, "and I know when something doesn't add up. This doesn't add up." Michael didn't respond. He couldn't. As the service began, the air in the chapel grew heavier. A priest spoke words of comfort, but Michael barely heard them. He stared at the casket, at the flowers, at the faces of the people who had come to say goodbye. Then Zoe's voice shattered the solemn silence. "Mommy isn't in there." The room went still. Michael turned, his breath catching in his throat. Zoe had climbed down from her seat, her small frame trembling as she pointed at the casket. Her dark eyes, wide and filled with something between fear and defiance, locked onto her father's. "Zoe," Michael said softly, stepping toward her. "Sweetheart, come here." She shook her head violently. "You're lying," she whispered, her voice barely audible at first, then louder. "You're all lying. I saw her. She was outside my window last night." The silence in the room became suffocating. Murmurs spread like wildfire through the gathered crowd. Eyes darted toward Michael, toward Derek, toward the casket. Someone gasped. A woman clutched her pearls. A man shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Michael's hands curled into fists. His daughter was grieving. She was confused, overwhelmed. But before he could reach her, she bolted, tears streaming down her face as she ran toward the chapel doors. Michael hesitated for only a second before chasing after her. By the time he reached the churchyard, she was standing near a row of gravestones, her small chest rising and falling with panicked breaths. "Zoe," he called, his voice steady despite the chaos in his mind. She turned to him, her face streaked with tears. "I'm not making it up, Daddy," she whispered. "I saw her. She was right there." Michael knelt in front of her, gently placing his hands on her shoulders. "Sweetheart, I know you miss her. I do too. But sometimes when we lose someone, our minds—" "I know what I saw," she interrupted fiercely. "She was standing outside my window. She had on a hat, and she was wearing dark clothes, but I could see her face. It was Mommy." Michael's blood turned to ice. He wanted to brush it off as a child's grief-stricken imagination. But Zoe wasn't just saying she saw something. She believed it. Every word, every tremor in her voice told him that she knew what she had seen. A rustling sound echoed from the nearby trees. Michael turned sharply, his heart hammering in his chest. But there was nothing there. Just the wind. Or at least, that's what he told himself. He exhaled and pulled Zoe into his arms, holding her tightly as she sobbed against his chest. But his mind raced. Derek was right. Something wasn't adding up. And for the first time since his wife's death, Michael Harris felt a deep, gnawing suspicion. Because if Zoe wasn't imagining things, if she really had seen Lily, then whose body was in the casket? Michael Harris spent the rest of the day convincing himself that his daughter was simply overwhelmed with grief. He told himself that children often saw what they wanted to see, that their minds tried to fill the spaces left by loss with impossible hope. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it gnawed at him relentlessly. Zoe refused to speak for the rest of the afternoon. She curled up in her bed, her small body wrapped in blankets, staring at the window as though expecting her mother to appear at any moment. Derek Miller, however, wasn't about to let the matter rest. "You know something's off, Mike," Derek said, his voice low as they stood outside on the front porch later that evening. "I ran checks through the system today. There's no record of Lily's body being officially processed at Mercy General. And that coroner, Dr. Katz, no one seems to know much about him." Michael shook his head, running a hand over his face. "That doesn't make sense. The hospital called me. They said she was brought in." Derek crossed his arms. "Yeah? And who told you that exactly? A receptionist? A nurse you never met before? Or just some voice on the other end of a phone?" Michael hesitated. "The doctor told me in person. He said she had a heart attack." Derek scoffed. "And yet, they never let you see her body." He leaned in, his voice dropping lower. Listen, man, I know this is hard. I know you want to believe this is just some awful tragedy. But what if it's not? What if Zoe really did see Lily? Michael's stomach twisted, because deep down he had been asking himself the same thing. That night, sleep did not come easily. Michael lay awake, staring at the ceiling while Zoe slept restlessly in the next room. He kept hearing her words, the way her voice trembled with certainty. I know what I saw. At some point, exhaustion took over. His dreams were fragmented, images of Lily running through the trees, her voice calling his name, only to disappear when he reached out for her. He woke before dawn, drenched in sweat. He needed answers. The next morning, Michael made his way to Mercy General Hospital. The receptionist at the front desk greeted him with a professional but distant smile. "How can I help you, sir?" "My wife," he said, clearing his throat. "Lily Harris. She was brought in a few days ago. I need to see her records." The receptionist frowned, typing into her computer. Seconds passed. Her expression shifted slightly. "I'm sorry, Mr. Harris, but I don't seem to have any records under that name." Michael's heart skipped a beat. "That's impossible. I spoke to a doctor. I was given a death certificate." The woman hesitated. "Do you have the certificate with you?" Michael pulled it from his jacket pocket and placed it on the desk. The receptionist examined it carefully, her frown deepening. Then she shook her head. "This isn't one of ours." His pulse pounded in his ears. "What do you mean?" She looked uneasy now, glancing toward one of the attending doctors before lowering her voice. "I mean, this document wasn't issued by Mercy General." Michael felt as though the ground beneath him had shifted. "Wait," he said, gripping the edge of the desk. "So, you're saying my wife was never here?" I'm not sure, sir, but if she was, there's no record of it in our system." Michael turned and walked out of the hospital in a daze. His hands trembled as he pulled out his phone and called Derek. "You were right," he said the moment his friend answered. "Something is very, very wrong." That evening, Michael sat Zoe down at the kitchen table. "Sweetheart," he said gently, "can you tell me again what you saw?" Zoe looked hesitant, her small hands folded in her lap. "You don't believe me," she mumbled. "I want to believe you," he admitted. "I just need to understand." She took a deep breath. "It was 2 nights ago. I woke up because I heard something outside my window. At first, I thought it was the wind, but then I saw her." Michael's throat tightened. "Are you sure it was Mommy?" Zoe nodded, her eyes shining. "I know it was. She was standing there looking at me. She had on a hat, like one of those baseball caps, and dark clothes. But I could still see her face." Michael felt his pulse quicken. What happened next? "I sat up and I wanted to go to her," Zoe whispered. "But when I blinked, she was gone." A heavy silence filled the room. Derek, who had been leaning against the wall, finally spoke. "Mike, I think it's time we take this seriously." Michael looked at him, then back at Zoe. His daughter wasn't making this up. And now, with everything else piling up, the missing records, the fake death certificate, he could no longer deny it. If Zoe had seen Lily, then where was she now? Derek decided they needed to conduct their own investigation. Zoe had mentioned seeing her mother more than once, near the school, near the house. So that night, Derek parked his car down the street from the Harris home and watched. Hours passed. Midnight came and went. The streetlights flickered, the occasional car rolled by, but there was nothing unusual. Then, just as Derek was about to call it a night, he saw something. A figure moved in the shadows across the street. It was subtle, barely noticeable, but Derek had spent years as a detective. His instincts flared to life. He sat up straighter, squinting into the darkness. The figure was a woman. She wore a hooded sweatshirt, the brim of a cap barely visible beneath it. Her posture was tense, her movements quick, as if she didn't want to be seen. She stopped near the Harris house. For a split second, she turned toward Zoe's bedroom window. And that was when Derek saw her face. His breath caught. It was Lily. Before he could react, before he could even reach for his phone, she turned and disappeared into the night. Derek stared at the empty sidewalk, his heart pounding. She was alive. She was hiding. And now the real question was, why? Michael barely touched his coffee the next morning. The steaming cup sat untouched on the kitchen table as he stared at the wood grain, his thoughts a tangled mess. Across from him, Zoe poked at her cereal with her spoon, lost in her own thoughts. She hadn't mentioned her mother again since their conversation the night before, but the tension in the house was thick, a weight neither of them could shake. Derek had called at sunrise with an update. "I saw her, Mike," his friend had said, his voice low but firm. "Lily is alive." The words sent a jolt through Michael's system, but instead of relief all he felt was anger. She was alive. That meant she had faked everything. The funeral, the grief, the tears Zoe had shed every night since she was told her mother was gone. It meant she had let them mourn her, had watched them suffer while hiding in the shadows. It meant she had lied. Michael didn't know what enraged him more, the deception or the fact that he still loved her despite it all. "Dad?" Zoe's small voice broke through his thoughts. He blinked and looked up. "What is it, sweetheart?" She hesitated, biting her lip. Are we going to find Mommy?" Michael took a deep breath, trying to mask the storm of emotions raging inside him. "Yes," he said softly. "We're going to find her." And when they did, she was going to have to explain everything. Derek showed up an hour later. He was wearing his old leather jacket, the same one from their college days, back when things were simpler, back when their biggest worries were exams and weekend plans, not missing wives and faked deaths. "I did some digging," he said as he stepped inside, "and you're not going to like what I found." Michael folded his arms. "At this point, I doubt I'll like anything." Derek pulled out a file folder and set it on the kitchen table. The pages inside were a mixture of old documents, photocopies of police reports, and surveillance photos. Michael flipped through them, his pulse spiking as he took in the images. The first was a mugshot. Not of Lily Harris, but of a woman who looked exactly like her. The name printed beneath it read, Evelyn Brooks. Michael's mouth went dry. Who the hell is Evelyn Brooks? Derek exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. "That," he said, "is your wife's real name." Michael felt the room tilt slightly. This has to be a mistake," he said. Derek shook his head. "It's not. I pulled everything I could. Evelyn Brooks was involved in some serious shit years ago. Fraud, identity theft, possible connections to organized crime. She disappeared off the grid 15 years ago. No arrests, no records, nothing. Just gone." Michael stared at the picture again, his brain refusing to connect the woman in the mugshot with the wife he had loved for over a decade. "She changed her name," Derek continued. "Started a new life. Met you, had Zoe, and for a while it looks like she kept her past buried. Until now." Michael swallowed hard. "She was running." Derek nodded. "And now, whoever she was running from has finally caught up." Michael's fists clenched. "So she faked her death to escape again." "That's what it looks like." Michael's jaw tightened. His entire marriage had been a lie. The woman he had trusted, the mother of his child, had been living under a false identity. He felt sick. "She left Zoe behind," he whispered. "She let us believe she was dead." Derek placed a hand on his shoulder. "I know, man, and I don't know what her reasons were, but I do know this. If she's alive, she's in trouble, and we need to find her before someone else does." Michael's stomach twisted at the thought. As furious as he was, as betrayed as he felt, he couldn't ignore the gnawing fear that came with knowing Lily or Evelyn was out there alone. And if she had gone this far to disappear, it meant whoever was after her wouldn't stop until they found her. That night, Michael couldn't sleep. Zoe had finally drifted off, her tiny body curled up beneath her blankets, clutching a stuffed rabbit Lily had given her when she was a baby. Michael sat in the living room, staring at the cold glow of the television, barely registering the late-night news as it played. His mind was too full of memories that suddenly felt tainted. Every birthday, every anniversary, every quiet moment in bed before sunrise, whispering about their future. None of it was real. The woman he loved wasn't real. The sound of rustling outside made him stiffen. At first, he thought it was the wind. Then he heard it again, a distinct shuffling near the back porch. Michael's body moved before his brain caught up. He grabbed the baseball bat near the door and crept toward the window. A shadow moved in the yard. His breath hitched. It was her. Even in the dim light he could tell, the shape of her, the way she held herself, tense but still somehow graceful. Lily, Evelyn, whoever she was. She was watching the house. Michael's heart pounded. He reached for the door handle, his fingers shaking. But before he could open it, she turned and ran. "Lily!" he shouted, throwing the door open. He sprinted across the yard, his feet pounding against the pavement. But she was fast. She disappeared around the corner of the fence, vanishing into the night like a ghost. Michael stopped, panting, his mind reeling. She had come back. She had been watching them, and now, he knew for sure, she wasn't gone. She wasn't dead, but she was still running, and he was going to find out why. Michael barely slept after seeing Lily in the yard. He sat in the living room, gripping his phone, debating whether to call Derek. But what would he even say? She was here, and then she was gone. He already knew what his friend would say. "We need to track her down." But this wasn't just some fugitive they were chasing. This was his wife, the woman he had spent the last 12 years building a life with. And yet, was she really his wife at all? By the time dawn broke, exhaustion pulled at his limbs, but his mind remained sharp, restless. He made Zoe's breakfast on autopilot, forcing himself to act normal for her sake. She still didn't know everything. She couldn't. As she sat at the kitchen table, swinging her legs back and forth, she asked the question that had been haunting him since last night. "Did Mommy come back?" Michael nearly dropped the mug in his hand. His back stiffened. He turned slowly, watching her. "What makes you ask that, sweetheart?" Zoe shrugged, stirring her cereal with her spoon. "I don't know. I just felt like she was here." Michael swallowed hard. His daughter had always been intuitive. It was something Lily had loved about her, something they used to joke about, how Zoe could always sense when something wasn't right. And now she was sensing the truth. Michael kneeled beside her chair, brushing a stray curl from her forehead. "Listen, Zoe, if Mommy was here, would you want to see her?" She nodded immediately. "Yes, but I don't think she wants me to see her." That hit him like a punch to the gut. His daughter didn't even know that Lily had chosen to disappear, had let them grieve. And yet, somehow, she still felt it. Michael pressed a kiss to her forehead. We're going to find her, he promised. And this time he meant it. Derek arrived an hour later, looking like he had barely slept either. He stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, tossing a file onto the kitchen table. "I've been working all night," he said. "You're gonna want to see this." Michael flipped open the folder. More old reports, more grainy surveillance photos, and a new image. A still frame from a traffic camera, taken just 3 days ago. Lily. She had changed her appearance. Her hair was cut shorter, dyed darker, but Michael knew that face. Even after everything, he would always know that face. "She's still in town," Derek said, "and I think I know where." The warehouse district near the old train station was barely active anymore. Just a few storage facilities, a handful of abandoned buildings, and a stretch of road that hadn't seen proper maintenance in years. Derek parked 2 blocks away. "You sure about this?" Michael asked as they approached a rusted fence. "No," Derek admitted, "but I'm not letting her slip away again." They moved carefully, scanning the area. Michael's heart pounded as they neared one of the smaller buildings, an old fisherman's hut that had long since been repurposed for storage. Then they heard voices. Michael froze. He knew her voice instantly. It was muffled, tense, but it was Lily. Derek pressed a finger to his lips and moved closer to the window. Michael followed, his pulse hammering. Inside, 2 people sat at a wooden table. Lily, her head in her hands, and a man Michael didn't recognize. The man was tall, lean, his arms covered in tattoos. He had the air of someone who had seen too much, survived too much, and he was arguing with Lily. "Have to leave," the man was saying. "We don't have time for this, Elle." Michael's breath caught in his throat. Elle, not Lily, Evelyn. His wife, his Lily, hadn't been lying about just her past. She had been lying about her name. Lily, Evelyn, shook her head. "I can't. Not yet." The man cursed under his breath. "They're going to find us. You know that, right?" "I know," she snapped, "but I can't just disappear again. Not like this." Michael felt sick, his fists clenched at his sides. She had chosen to disappear before. Was she about to do it again? The man stood pacing. "Look, I get it. You want to protect them, but if you don't walk away, they're going to get caught in the crossfire. And this time, you won't be able to fake your way out of it." Silence. Then Lily whispered something, her voice shaking. "I never wanted to fake it in the first place." Michael couldn't take it anymore. He stood abruptly, pushing the door open. The sudden movement startled them both. The man reached for something. Michael wasn't sure if it was a weapon or instinct, but Lily turned, her eyes going wide. For a moment, everything was still. Then she whispered, "Michael." His throat tightened. "You have 5 seconds to explain what the hell is going on." The man beside her tensed. "We should go." "No," Lily said, stepping forward. "I need to talk to him." Michael's voice was dangerously low. "Who is he?" Lily swallowed hard. "His name is Kyle." Kyle gave a half-hearted smirk. "Nice to meet you, Mike." Michael ignored him, his focus locked on Lily. "You faked your death." His voice shook. "You let our daughter, our 7-year-old daughter, believe you were dead." Lily's face crumpled. "I didn't have a choice." "There's always a choice," Kyle scoffed. "Yeah? Not in this life." Michael snapped toward him. "Shut the hell up." Lily placed a hand on Kyle's arm, stopping whatever he was about to say. Then she looked at Michael, her eyes pleading. "I wanted to protect you. I wanted to protect Zoe." Michael's hands curled into fists. From who? Lily hesitated. Kyle answered for her. From the people who want her dead. The words hit like a sledgehammer. Michael's blood turned ice cold. Before he could process it, Lily spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. I thought I could escape them, Michael. I thought I could build a new life. But I was wrong. Michael's stomach twisted. Who are they? Kyle exhaled. Let's just say they're the kind of people who don't forget a debt. And Evelyn here, she owes them big. Michael's heart pounded. His head spun. He had come here for answers, and now, with every word they spoke, the truth was unraveling into something far worse than he ever imagined. Lily, Evelyn, was running. Not from the law, but from people who wanted her dead, and now, by looking for her, by finding her, he had just made himself and Zoe targets too. Michael's hands clenched at his sides, his pulse roaring in his ears. The air in the small, dimly lit fisherman's hut was thick with tension. He stood just feet away from Lily, Evelyn, the woman he had loved, the woman he had buried. She was alive, standing before him, yet she felt like a stranger. And now he knew why. She wasn't just hiding from him. She was hiding from them, whoever they were, the people who wanted her dead, the people who would come for him and Zoe next. His chest tightened with fury. You should have told me. His voice was low, dangerous. Lily shook her head. If I had told you, you would have tried to stop me. You would have made me stay, and then... She hesitated, swallowing hard. Then they would have found me, and they would have found you, and Zoe. Michael took a slow step forward, fists still clenched. And instead, you let your daughter believe she lost her mother. You let her cry herself to sleep for weeks. Do you know how many nights she woke up screaming, begging for you to come back? Lily's face crumpled. I know, she whispered, and I hate myself for it. Michael's chest ached, his anger twisting into something even heavier. He wanted to scream at her, shake her, hold her. He didn't know which instinct was stronger. Kyle, the tattooed man standing next to her, crossed his arms. Look, I get that you're pissed, he said, his voice dripping with impatience. But we don't have time for this family drama. We have to go. Michael snapped his gaze toward him. We? Kyle smirked. Yeah, we. You think she was going to just stick around here after you found her? Michael's jaw clenched. You think I'm just going to let her walk out of here again? Kyle took a step forward. I think if you care about your kid, you'll want her to. Michael felt his body go rigid. Is that a threat? Lily quickly stepped between them. Stop, both of you. Kyle exhaled sharply but took a step back. Lily turned to Michael, her expression raw. I never wanted to leave, she said, not like this. But I didn't have a choice. Michael's throat tightened. Then explain it to me. All of it. She hesitated, then nodded. Fine. You deserve the truth. Kyle let out a groan. We don't have time. She ignored him, and then she finally told him everything. 15 years ago, before she was Lily Harris, she had been Evelyn Brooks, a woman caught up in a world she never should have entered. She had been involved in fraud schemes, identity theft, and laundering money for people much more powerful than she ever was. But she had never been a mastermind. She had been a pawn. A young woman who had made a few bad choices, and by the time she realized how deep she was in, there was no way out. Until she met Michael. She hadn't been looking for a way to escape, not yet. But when she met him, when they fell in love, she saw a life she never thought she could have. And when she got pregnant with Zoe, she made her choice. She disappeared. She burned her old identity, created a new one, and vanished from the world she had once been tangled in. She thought she had done it cleanly, but she was wrong. "They found me a few months ago," Lily whispered. "They knew where I lived. They knew about you, about Zoe." She swallowed hard. "They didn't come for me right away. They were watching, waiting, and I knew that if I stayed, it was only a matter of time before they made their move." Michael's hands curled into fists. "So you decided to disappear first?" Lily nodded. "It was the only way to keep you safe." Michael's stomach churned. "Who are they?" Kyle shifted against the wall, looking uncomfortable. "People you don't want to owe anything to. People who'd rather erase a loose end than let them walk free." Michael's mind raced. "And now that I've found you?" Lily's face tightened. Kyle spoke before she could. "Now they'll come for you too." The realization settled over Michael like a crushing weight. Zoe. If they knew about him, then they knew about Zoe. His daughter wasn't safe. Michael's rage boiled over. He turned to Lily. "Then we fight." Lily flinched. "Michael, no," he snapped. "You had your chance to run, but I am not running. I'm not letting our daughter grow up looking over her shoulder. If these people want to fight, they'll get one." Kyle laughed, shaking his head. "Yeah? And what? You think you can just take them on by yourself? What are you, some kind of action hero?" Michael glared at him. "No, but I'm a father, and if it means keeping Zoe safe, I'll do whatever it takes." Lily exhaled sharply. "Michael, please." A sound outside made them all freeze. Footsteps. Michael's pulse spiked. Derek. It had to be Derek. But then, a voice called from outside. Deep, cold. "We know you're in there, Evelyn." Lily went pale. Michael grabbed her wrist, his adrenaline spiking. "Tell me right now how many are out there." Kyle peeked out the window, his face darkened. "Too many." Lily whispered, "Michael, you have to go." "No, you have to. They won't let us all walk away from this." Michael's stomach turned to stone. Lily turned to Kyle, her expression raw. "Take him. Get him back to Zoe. I'll handle this." Michael shoved Kyle's hand away. "I'm not leaving you." Lily's voice broke. "Michael, please. If you love me, if you love our daughter, you will take her father home to her." A shadow moved past the window. Kyle cursed. "We're out of time." Michael's chest heaved. His instincts screamed at him to fight, to protect her, but his heart knew the truth. Zoe needed him, and Lily had already made her choice. Lily reached up and cupped his face, her fingers trembling. "I love you," she whispered. Michael's throat clenched, and then, before he could stop her, she grabbed Kyle's gun from his holster and turned toward the door. "Go," she whispered. Michael's heart shattered. Kyle grabbed his arm, yanking him toward the back exit. The last thing Michael saw before they slipped into the night was Lily, his wife, his everything, standing in the doorway, facing down the men who had come to take her away. And then the gunfire started. Michael barely remembered getting back home. He stumbled through the front door, his body aching, his mind blank. Zoe sat on the couch, hugging her stuffed rabbit. She looked up, her wide brown eyes locking onto his. "Daddy?" Michael dropped to his knees, pulling her into his arms. She held him tightly. "Where's Mommy?" Michael's breath hitched. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in his life, he had no answer. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. Share this video with others and check out more on the channel.